This is a key to the worksheet on topic 14, and it says for each graph, answer the following questions, and then state the domain and range in interval notation, and then state the intercepts as ordered pairs. Okay, so if you look at number one, we have this ray, and notice there's an open circle on one end of it, and then you have an arrow on the other. So keep that in mind. And so in 1a, it asks you to find the domain. So remember, the domain is a set of x coordinates. So you go from left to right. Now notice when I go from left to right along the x-axis, I start touching a graph at this open circle. And so the x coordinate at this open circle is -4. Now since it's an open circle, you're going to use parentheses. So it'll be parentheses -4, comma, and notice every other real number for x, any real number for x from -4 all the way to infinity, because remember this arrow keeps on going, will be included on this graph. So if x is, let's say, 4.7, there's a y value on this graph. There's a point on that graph. All right, so from -4 to infinity with parentheses at -4 is a domain. And remember, for infinity and negative infinity, it's always parentheses. For the range, again, you're going to go, remember the range is a set of y coordinates, so you go along the y-axis. Again, I'll start touching a graph when I'm at this open circle. All right, now notice that the y coordinate is -1. So since it's an open circle, you're going to say parentheses -1 all the way to infinity. Okay, now C and D, you want to find the intercepts, X and Y intercept, and it did say list them as an ordered pair. All right, so remember the X-intercept is a point on the graph where the graph crosses the X-axis, and so this point here would be the X-intercept, and that's the point -3, 0. So -3, 0. Remember, we always indicate a point using parentheses. The y-coordinate, the y-intercept, that's the point of the graph where the point of the line where the graph crosses the y-intercept. So that's here. So that is 0, 3. So 0, 3. All right. Now remember, f of -2 means this. Means what's the y-coordinate when x is -2? So you got to find x is -2. So x is -2 here. So the point of the graph is this right here. So that's the point of the graph. So that represents the point -2, comma, 1. So my y-coordinate is 1. F of 1 means what's the y-coordinate when x is 1? So when x is 1, see x is 1 here. So look at the graph. So that's this point here. So when x is 1, my y-coordinate is 4. See, that's 4 right here. So 1, comma, 4. G, for what values of x is f of x? Remember, f of x means y, means the same thing as y. So where's y equal to? For what values of x is y equal to 2? Well, remember, 2, the y value on the 2 on the y-axis is here. So you got to locate the point that corresponds to that. So here's y is 2. So remember over here we said x equal -2, and we located the point, and then we said x equal 1, and we located the point. Well, here you do the same thing, except this time y is 2. So on the y-axis, you locate 2, and then the point that corresponds to that is this. So this right here is the point -1, 2. Okay, so that's the point -1, 2. So the question is, when y is 2, see y is 2 here, what's the x-coordinate? Well, the x-coordinate is -1. All right. 2 is very similar to 1. 2 is very similar to 1, except this time it's a closed circle. So the domain, remember, is a set of x coordinates. So you're going to start here at -4. It's closed. So it's a closed circle, so it'll be a bracket. -4 all the way to infinity, because the arrow, remember, keeps on going. So 1000.82 will be a point on the graph. When x is 1000.82, there's a point on the graph. Be way down there. But again, remember, infinity, negative infinity, always use parentheses. The range, okay, remember the range is a set of y coordinates. Notice the arrow is pointing down. Over here is pointing up. So since it's pointing down, remember the range, you go along your y-axis. So that's towards negative infinity. So you're going from negative infinity all the way, and then it stops here, and that y value here is 5. So that y value here is 5. closed circle, so use a bracket. So negative infinity to 5, close with a bracket. X-intercept. Now you're going to have to estimate this X-intercept. So it looks like it's about negative 1.5, and they do want you to write as an ordered pair. So parentheses, negative 1.5, comma, 0. The Y-intercept looks like it's at negative 3. Remember, that's where the graph crosses the y-axis. So that'll be 0, negative 3. Okay, E and F is just like E and F here. So in number 1, so make sure you understand that. So remember this means what's the y value when x is negative 2? So locate x equal negative 2. See, here's where x is negative 2. So locate the point of that graph right here. So that point in that graph for the y value is 1. So that's 1. So remember, if I ask you to label that point, that would be negative 2, comma 1. So when x is negative 2, the y value is 1. F of negative 4, so that's this right here. So that's this point here. So that point, the coordinates of that point would be negative 4, 5. So negative 4, 5. So then you're asked, what's the y value when x is negative 4? When x is negative 4, the y value is 5. For what values of x is f of x equal to 3? Remember, f of x means the same thing as y. So you locate where y is 3. So along the y-axis, remember, y is 3. So go along, see how my ruler is now horizontal? So along the y-axis, y is 3. So that's where y is 3. So the point that corresponds to that is this. So the coordinates of that point would be negative 3, 3. See that? Negative 3, 3. And so now we're going to answer the question. When y is 3, see y is 3 here, x is negative 3. All right, so that's number 2. Okay, let's look at number 3. So number 3, this time you have 2 arrows on the end, so the end behavior is pointing down. And so the domain, remember the domain is a set of x coordinates, so you're going from negative infinity all the way to infinity. The arrows, remember, going down like this. So negative infinity to infinity, parentheses. The range, the arrow, since the arrows are pointing down, you're going from negative infinity all the way, and then this is where it stops right here. So that's going to be the y value of 4. So from negative infinity, 4 with a bracket. The x-intercept, there are 2 of them. There are 2 x-intercepts. There's one here and one here. So that's the coordinates, that's the origin right here. So that's 0, 0. And the other one is 4, 0. Remember, make you direction. Direction said write as an ordered pair. So you need to write as an ordered pair. The y-intercepts where the graph crosses the y-axis. So that's the same place as the origin right here. So that's 0, 0. F of 2 means what's the y value when x is 2. So when x is 2, that's this right here. So when x is 2, my y value is 4. So the answer is 4. Make sure you put 4. It has to be 4. Don't put 2, 4. It's just 4. The y value is the answer. What's the y value when x is 3? So f of 3 means what's the y value when x is 3? So when x is 3, right here, that's this right here. So when x is 3, my y value is 3. So 3 goes here. Okay, 4, it's very similar to this one, except instead of the arrows and the end behaviors, the arrows pointing down, here they're pointing up. So the only difference in that case in terms of domain and range will be the range. So the domain is still from negative infinity all the way to infinity. The range, though, see, it starts here. So the range, the y value is negative 4 with a bracket all the way to infinity. The x-intercept, there are 2 of them. So there's this one. So that's negative 7 right here. See, that's negative 6, that's negative 7. And then this is 1. So negative 7, 0, and 1, 0. The y-intercept, that's this right here, the graph where the graph crosses the y-axis, that's negative 1. So 0, negative 1. F of 2 means what's the y value when x is 2? So x is 2 here, right here. So you got it located. So that's this point here. So that's the value of 1. See, this right here is 2, comma 1. So the answer is 1. F of negative 8 is right here. So that's this point here. So that's negative 8, 1. And so again, when x is negative 8, what's that y value? Well, the y value is 1. In number 5, you have an open circle and a closed circle. So there are no arrows involved. So the domain, again, you go along the x-axis. The domain, you start at this open circle, so that is x value of -3, so parentheses -3, comma, all the way to a closed circle at 3, so with a bracket. The range, you're going along the y-axis, so that's the y value -2, so bracket -2, all the way to open circle of 4 with parentheses. The x-intercept, that's where the graph crosses the x-axis, so that'll be 1, 0. The y-intercept, that's where the graph crosses the y-axis, so across the y-axis here, so that's 0, 1. F of 2 means what's the y value when x is 2? So when x is 2, right here, the y value is -1. So remember, this is the point, 2, -1. So when x is 2, the y value is -1. F of -2 means what's the y value when x is -2? So that's -2 here. The point of the graph that corresponds to it is here. So that's the coordinates -2, 3. So the answer is 3. So the y value when x is -2 is 3. For what values of x is my y value equal to -2? So that here's -2. Remember, your y value is -2. Remember, f of x means y. So you want to find the x coordinate that corresponds to that. So when y is -2, that's this point here. So the coordinates of that point is 3, -2. 3, -2. Now we can answer the question. When y is -2, that's this. What's the x value? Well, that's this. So x is 3. Okay? So that is the key to worksheet 14, topic 14, worksheet